This is the Criterion Creeps podcast, and tonight we're talking about Jigoku from 1960, directed by Nobuo Nakagawa, and we are joined by friend of the show,
Mm-hmm.
the
I think we
the
can say
one
we're
that we
friends
call
now.
Corpse. Do corpses have
I'm here.
friends?
Yeah, I do now.
Good.
Got two of them.
Good.
He's got two, Jerry. He's got friends in us.
And
Yeah.
Especially when you're in Japanese hell. There's all the friends you could ever want.
Well,
I
you start turning on each other in the cesspool.
Yeah.
Yeah,
More friends than you might want, I guess, in
That's-
Japanese hell.
that's right.
Yeah.
It's a big old pile. But we're jumping the gun here.
Oh, yeah.
What's this movie here about? Well, a synopsis. After a young theology student flees a hit-and-run accident, he is plagued by both his own guilt-ridden conscience and a mysterious diabolical doppelganger. But all possible escape routes lead straight to hell. Literally.
I can explain the doppelganger thing, because I watched the little documentary to this. I don't know if you guys did. I can explain that if you want me to now, or I can explain it later once we get into the movie.
You can explain it now if you wanted.
Did either of you guys watch the making of the Inferno?
I did not.
No.
I
It's
saw
on
that.
YouTube and there's
So I
no
watched-
subtitles.
Terrific.
Yeah.
This is actually a rare feature on the Criterion channel that I actually wanted to watch. So it's like 40 minutes. The screenwriter, he's talking about that. This movie is intended to be a person who's going through self-turmoil. And he said a lesser movie would have cast the same person in both roles, like the same actor is playing both of them. And he said, we're not like that.
We're not like other
we
movies.
cast someone else. Yeah. He didn't say lesser, but it was something like that. He was just like, a lesser movie would have just had the same actor play both roles. And he's like, not us. We got a whole different actor for it. So the intent was it's supposed to be the devil on the shoulder of that guy, but the movie's supposed to be him doing things always, and it's his internal conflict.
So that's the Tamura character.
Yeah. Yeah, and that's what the screenwriter said.
Okay. I mean, yeah, I didn't really think about it a lot because at different times it feels like he serves different purposes. Sometimes he's along for the ride. Sometimes he's just his friend. Sometimes it's like, well, this is like clearly the devil, right? But then it's not, and they play fast and loose with that. But nonetheless, okay. So, anyways, I own this movie. I bought it ages ago.
Sure.
I'm a fan of those Japanese horror films, and
Oh, wow.
Criterion puts out the some fine ones. So, Onibaba is real good stuff, and so Jigoku was a blind buy way back when, and I watched it ages ago. Couldn't tell you when. Probably it was shortly after it came out. I watched it once, and I didn't really remember a lot about it. I have to say. I think that I remember there was some hell stuff. But I remember at the first part of like a huge chunk of the movie before that is a bunch of other stuff, and I was like, I'm here for the hell. I'm here for the cool hell stuff. That's why I heard so much about crazy Japanese movies. So I kind of like had shelved it for a long time, been meaning to rewatch it for quite a while. After I'd kind of become more, as we talked about not that long ago, acclimated to watching. This type of movie and building up a palette for it, and then being able to appreciate this sort of thing better. And I hadn't watched it then, of course, when we started this lousy podcast. I was like, I can't watch it now. I got to wait till we get to it. And here we are, and what an occasion, joined by Corpse, who I think I reached out to you, Corpse, about joining us because I was like, well, if there's any kind of ghoulish film coming up anytime soon, I think this would fit the bill.
Definitely threw it on my radar months ago.
Yeah.
And I often look ahead at the Criterion movies and scan through them, kind of look them up on Letterboxd, watch some trailers, and I keep a constant list of like which ones I'm looking forward to and which ones, because obviously they're not all Corpse picks, but
Of course.
there's a good a good chunk of them in there. What's the next one I got on my list? First Man into Space, 1959. Spine
Oh,
number 365. That's the next one I'm looking forward to after this one, kind of thing,
okay,
right?
right.
So, you guys threw Jigoku on my radar before I'd looked that far ahead, and I've been anticipating it ever since. So much so that I had lots of time to go through the director's other films. A
Ooh.
good handful of them, anyways. I watched The Ghost of Yatsuya, Black Cat Mansion, The Ghost of Kasane, Snake Woman's Curse, and The Lady Vampire. So I crushed a few Nobuo Nakagawa films in anticipation for this episode.
Oh man.
Nice. That's way more work than either of us have ever done.
Or at least not done for a very long time.
Well,
Right,
Jarrett
well,
did that for the first year, maybe.
Like you said, you threw this on my radar months ago, so I was able to spread them out too pretty good.
Yeah. The only one of Nakagawa's movies that I've seen is The Ghost of Yatsue, and I've never seen like Black Cat Mansion or a bunch of these other ones. So that's
Yatsuya and Black Cat Mansion are better than the other ones for sure. Those are the two standouts.
okay.
I saw your review at Black Cat Mansion. It sounded cool. I was like, ooh.
Yeah, very,
I was like, that
very
sounds cool.
atmospheric, moody. Yeah. It's got like a lot of swamp and the misty swamps, and then the Black Cat Lady looks cool too. It's got like a Universal Monsters feel to it almost.
Mm-hmm.
Which another Creeptober pick maybe for some people. I think it might be on YouTube. I'm not sure.
Yeah, I think you mentioned it would be on subtitles with subtitles and that sweet 69 minutes long. Oof.
There you go.
That's
the one.
Better.
Perfect.
Better.
Perfect runtime. So, RJ, were you familiar at all with this before this week?
I know Goku.
Okay. Son Goku?
Yeah, I know Son Goku from
Vegeta.
Oh, I know some Vegeta. Yeah, it's in the foreign aisle of the grocery store. They have that Vegeta. Is it rice or is it's like salt or something? You guys ever seen that in the store? You guys ever seen that? You seen this?
Vegemite?
No, not Vegemite. It says Vegeta. It's like a kind of salt or something.
Okay.
It doesn't matter.
I got a Goku tie-in for this movie.
Oh.
Today, actually, I watched the Jigoku remake from 1979.
Yeah.
And right off the bat, the production company comes up, and I'm like, I recognize that. It's like that Toei. I'm not sure how to pronounce it.
Okay.
But it popped up, and I brought them up right away. Produced a ton of Dragon Ball Z movies back in the day, and like Power Rangers and stuff like that. So there's a little tie-in there with your Goku.
Yeah. See, it all comes together. I actually tried to find that the remake as well, but I couldn't find it. So I tried, but I couldn't get it.
I'm not gonna tell you where I found it.
No, I
collection,
guarantee it was.
I found it at that video store I was telling you about earlier.
Yeah, exactly. Perfectly legal means. But no, I didn't know about Jigoku at all.
Okay.
And then I watched it, and then I did some mild Googling, which by that I mean I read about a paragraph or two on Wikipedia, and I went, okay. So I know more about it now.
That's wonderful.
Let's
see if we can bestow some of this great knowledge of ours.
Of course.
To our listeners, our dear listeners who are definitely tuning in to be like, I want to know more about Jigoku. To the Criterion Creeps podcast.
Who wouldn't?
So, our protagonist, Shiro, he's got a girlfriend, a fiancée, Yukiko. She is the daughter of his professor, who teaches religion. We get some sweet chalkboard action talking about concepts of hell. But before all this, we get this kind of a prelude, a montage of hell, and this like awesome like existential dialogue. Very matter of fact. It feels like very like this terseness to the writing of this narration. It's very Japanese, and just these wonderful expressions and these like kind of great kind of ambiguous images of like people by rivers in hands talking about the eternal damnation of young babies and stuff, and I'm like, oh, and in my mind I went, this actually kind of is an RJ pick, isn't it?
Oh, why do you say that,
I
Jer?
don't know. I feel like you're into eternal damnation of babies.
Only the bad ones.
The bad babies, especially.
Yeah. You know the bad babies.
And there's
You know
like,
them.
yeah, there's like these like floating bodies that are all like covered like in this white cake, and they're floating in like a pool, like in like a tub, and it's things like, could the law even begin to punish them all?
Could they?
Yeah, and in the end, all must die, and these bandaged figures just floating suspendedly, and you're like, what is this movie all about? What's it trying to sell?
Mm-hmm.
Well, it basically, are either of you familiar with the cartoonist and like kind of evangelical Jack Chick, who made like these really famous Chick tracks? They're these like comics that are just, you're supposed to like you know, people go around and they slip them into your like bowling shoes or in your mailbox, and there are these just really weird comics. They're just about like, you better accept Jesus Christ as your Lord and Savior, or you're going to hell. He is a total anti-papist, completely against the Catholic Church. It's all a distraction that will lead you astray from the real God. And like, it's always like this like kind of like whatever stuff about like morality tale about a character making weird decisions along the way. But by the end, some guy goes who acts like he was his friend this whole time, goes, "Ha! But I was the devil, and now you're in hell for all eternity." That's every Jack Chick tract, and that's kind of what Jigoku reminded me of.
Apparently what they were going for was a Faust story, Jared.
Faust?
You know Faust?
I know about Faust.
Yeah, you know Faust?
Dr.
Yeah,
Faustus?
Yeah, that's what some Mephisto stuff. That's apparently what they were trying to do. So
A tale as old as time.
tale as old as time. Yeah, corpse v corpse.
Yeah.
You know.
So back to Shiro. He's at dinner with his girlfriend and her family, and his buddy Tamura shows up, kind of like all pale and kind of spooky looking. I think he was she dated him at one time, the girlfriend, and he kind of got snagged away. He's like, yeah, that's okay. I don't care. I'm over that. I wear sunglasses indoors. It's like, hey, let's go for a car ride, an erratic car ride. And what happens? Well, they run over the leader of a Yakuza gang, a guy named Kyochi. They stop. They check in on him. He's like, he hit me by a car. You gotta give me some help. And they're like, no, let's keep driving, otherwise we won't get caught. It's like, no, we should go back and help. And it's like, ha, no. And then, but this gangster's mom was there because it was right in front of his house because he was stumbling about drunk, I guess. And she saw it. She saw the license plate. She keeps a mind of this. It's like, because her son has been killed, and now
probably something you should take note of. If
yes,
your son got ran over.
Get that license plate as they peel off into the dark. So yeah, Tamura, the driver, he don't care. He is like, what's done is done. We don't want to go to jail. But Shiro feels pretty bad about all of this. He tells the girlfriend about it. After some contemplation, she's like, well, we have to go to the police. And he's like, well, let's just drive. Let's just catch a cab there. She's like, no, I want to just walk. And well, of course, what irony, the cab that he demanded them take, it crashes. It just crashes into a tree, and now she's dead. And you're like, man, that's rough. It's like, how many more bad things can happen to this guy? It's like,
Not enough.
It's only the beginning. So let's see here. So then there's like the funeral, and then Shiro winds up meeting just like a stripper. She works at the bar. She works at the bar.
Prostitute, I thought.
Yeah,
like a sex worker, because
yeah,
that's not because she mentions things about like
she's an entertainer.
Yeah,
the
people that she entertains and stuff like that.
And she hones in on this guy.
I took it as they were both sex workers, but I could have been wrong.
The mother and the daughter?
The mother and the daughter-in-law or something, right?
Right. Yes, the daughter-in-law.
Yeah.
Or no, it's daughter. It's because that was her brother who died, so it's the mother and daughter.
Yeah.
I think.
Yeah.
So anyway, so
he was the the provider for both of them either way.
Yeah.
Whatever it was. I thought she was like his wife or something.
Maybe.
I could have went over my head.
Yeah.
Either way, he was providing.
No, sorry. It's not. It wasn't his daughter. Her daughter. It's girlfriend.
Yeah.
He was providing for both of them.
Yeah.
Yeah.
At the time, and they were. Did they go into sex work because he died?
Well, so there was there was a comment that like he was the one providing for both of them, and then because when he was dying, they're like, "Oh shit."
What do we do?
What do we do now? Yeah, and then they both showed up at like the stripping clubs. So that was how it seemed.
Right.
Yeah.
Yeah. So anyway, she moves in on this guy, sees him as a mark, and then after bedding down, she realizes that this guy was in that car that killed her ex, her deceased boyfriend. And
they ran the plates.
Yeah, they ran the plates. They just ran
somehow.
them.
Yeah, you can do that.
Yeah, you just do it. You have access. It's olden times. So then we get. So this is like the first, I don't know, 20 minutes of the movie, and then it transitions over to like this second phase where Shiro goes to visit his parents, who live in this retirement community that is run by his dad, and it is this, I don't know what you would call it. It's just like this squalor where like just reprobates and horrible people and like connivers and dirty doctors and just like this depressed painter trying to paint a depiction of hell. They all live there. They've all got scams going. But he also finds a woman who strikes a striking resemblance to his recently deceased fiance, Sashiko, I believe is her name.
Very striking, Jarrett.
Very striking. It's almost
striking.
It's almost like one of those times where I go, RJ, when did you realize?
Wow. Let's not get into that yet.
Yeah.
Let's not get there yet.
Okay. All right. Well, anyway, so the next thing I kind of specifically remember in this is fishing. And this talk about rotten fish and like rancid fish and being like, it's good. It's good enough to eat.
We'll just feed it to them anyways.
Yeah.
When's the last time you boys had rancid fish?
I hope I haven't had any recently. Otherwise, I might have to take off for a little bit. But
the one part that stuck out to me was when he went to visit his mom and she's like dying.
Yeah.
And his dad's in the next room with his mistress and you can like hear them fooling around.
Yeah.
And I was like, I like hated that guy. Like I hated the dad the most out of everyone in this movie.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Like,
I kind of agree with you.
It's all like leading up into like, why are they all going to hell? That's what it's all building up to, right? And like he deserved it the most. I felt was the dad. Yeah. He was the biggest piece of shit out of all of them.
Yeah, he was a bad dude. Yeah, for sure.
Yeah, so he's got a mistress, and she's of course already like ready to move on from this guy now too. And move on to the son while he's like right there. It's like like right in front of this. Like it's real greasy stuff.
She's so greasy, that lady. Yeah, her and the dad were like the worst.
Yeah, so you kind of know, like, well, I mean, they all got it coming, don't they?
Well, who doesn't? You know what I mean?
Well, we've all got it coming, kid.
That's the whole point of the first half of this movie is basically setting up why is everyone going to hell.
Yeah. So eventually, the Yakuza guy who died, his girlfriend and mother track down Shiro. There's a rope bridge exchange with some pretty amazing dummies falling down a gorge.
That was a highlight.
Definitely, yeah. Some good old-fashioned body dropping.
I was watching by myself and I genuinely gasped at the body, the corpse flop. I went
hitting the rock.
Because when it hits the rocks, I was like, no.
Are they all right?
Well, it was just, it was like the force of the impact and the bounce, I was like, it's not just like a fake body that they threw off. I think it was a real body. Is what I'm trying to say.
Yeah, it had some weight.
Had some weight.
She didn't flail or anything on the way down, so it gave like that dummy look, but it still like had some impact.
Yeah. I audibly gasped, and I went, "Oh man, it's good stuff."
That was a highlight for sure.
Yeah.
And then so like after that happens, you're like, well, I mean, this guy's scot free. It's like what the only people who could put the finger on him, it's over with. I mean, there's some talk about like tire tracks that could be used to identify him that are floating over his head. But he's like, you know what? Of course, his buddy hanging around. It's like, no, you can't go to the cops. So there's a big celebration at the old the squalid household where everyone's living. The rotten fish is eaten. People are jumping in front of trains. People are falling to their deaths. But yeah, there's this like ridiculous scene of just like people dying from like food poisoning, like instantly. But you're like, this is fine, whatever. We got to get to the next step of this film, which I mean, I don't know how this would play to like an audience live in 1960. We're just like, I'm not. There's no really anyone I'm rooting for other than, well, I hope these people soon find their way.
And did they?
Well, no, because now they go into hell. And so the last like half hour of this is hell, and it's like so much fun. The one thing I should mention is like this movie is extremely screenshotable. I was watching this on the laptop, and there'd be this juxtaposition of text with the images, and I was just like snapping away, sending stuff to RJ as I was watching. So I'm like, look at this. This is weeks of fodder for Instagram.
Yeah, this is the podcast in a nutshell.
This is some peak.
I mean, yes.
This film really does, I think, encapsulate what the Criterion Creeps is about in a lot of ways.
The sins that we do knowingly, and the things that we will have to pay for later, right, Jarrett?
That's right. So what kind of follows is the whole thing sets up like Shiro is going to be given these like opportunities to try to like save himself out of this as he gets to explore and experience the various levels of hell. And they have this kind of thing where people are like in hell, but they're kind of like cutting back and forth between like nothing happening to them, and it's like kind of like a mental space where they're imagining what's happening to them and then what's actually happening to them, but there's no difference there.
Yeah.
I think there's how I kind of interpreted things.
It's like they're tormented and then like revived so they can be tormented some more kind of thing, basically.
Yeah. So you're kind of like you cut between their like different phases of them, like how they arrived in hell in kind of rags and whatever, or whatever clothes they were wearing. But then it cuts to them kind of like in sort of desaturated clothes, being tortured by demons, like being chopped up and cut in half, and then they get brought back to life, and then they get to reenact this over and over and over again. Is sort of what they're going for. So some of those highlights are people just being like torn apart, like having their arms and legs torn off, which is pretty cool.
My favorite one was the dad gets his skin filleted right off of him, and then he's like laying on his back, staring at like his exposed rib cage, and his heart's like beating, and like all his guts and everything. That was the best one for him. My opinion.
That one's super cool. I like that his head is untouched because it felt like a comic book or like an old Looney Tunes where it's like a head that's normal, but then skeleton, like piranhas flew through or something. That's what it seemed like, and I was like, I was like,
when I was watching the remake today, I was like waiting for like there it is. I was waiting for a part. I was like, okay, what's gonna top like the exposed rib cage beating heart scene or whatever? And I'm like, they don't do it, but it's similar.
They never top it.
Damn. Do they top it with the gore? There's one cool part where they're like, there's these big giant demons, and they're like forcing all these people to push this crank around in a circle, and then they're dropping people in the top of the crank. It's almost like a pepper grinder, and they're just grinding the people in the middle of it while they're like forcing other people to push the grinder to create cool. And then it forms like a river of blood, and then the blood flows, and then they form back up into themselves. So like they're always being like
reborn and then killed again.
Reborn so that they can be tormented some more kind of thing.
Yeah, I like that too.
But like the gore in this one it is better, and this one felt more like overbearing and chaotic, like with like the beating of the drums and like that one demon that they keep showing with like the club that's just like beating, and like it felt more like hell than the other one. The other one felt like you could kind of step back a little bit more and soak it in, whereas the other one felt like it was, or the original felt like it was more like assaulting you at times, almost like it was. And it was longer too. The hell scene in the original one is about twice as long maybe as the remake, which is what you're watching this for, is for the hell scene, right? So
yeah, it's like what, 40 minutes in this movie in
Jigoku? It's about 25, I think. I clocked it right when they went to hell. I was like, I time stamped. I was like, okay, when do they go on in the remake? It's about 25 minutes they get of hell. Yeah, and it's not as chaotic. It's very similar though, like aesthetically, like they've got like the green clouds in the sky. Everyone's wearing gray. The black backdrop. It's very, very similar looking. Both movies, like I almost like rate them the same, almost, to be honest. I think the remake is similar to this one.
Right.
Good stuff.
Story, like the whole first half is completely different story, but I kind of almost feel the same way as I did about the other one. But the hell sequence, I'd say, is slightly better in the original, in my opinion.
Okay. Good to know.
I'd say it's worth the watch. If you like 1960 Jigoku, check out the remake, because they change enough about it that it doesn't feel like you're watching the same movie. But the hell stuff, which is the good stuff, they replicate it pretty well.
Very good. So amongst all the like mayhem that's going on, people like being like kind of slowly trudging into this river of was it the pus squeezed from their corpses?
It sounds so good, like said out loud.
I got a screenshot of that, Jarrett, so I can tell you exactly how it's phrased.
Okay.
Because I liked that quite a bit. It is this is the pus wrung from your festering carcasses and a cesspool of your foul wastes. Drink all you wish.
Yeah, because they're thirsty.
Which I think is a nice level of hell, because it's all about the levels of hell. I think the thirst level of hell is a good one.
Sometimes I guess always the thing is like, so you like donuts, eh? We can have all the donuts you want.
More.
Yeah,
it's good stuff.
That I don't know. That comes to my mind far too often.
The Simpsons hell? Yeah. I think about Simpsons hell all the time. All the time.
And is that what keeps you on the straight and narrow, RJ?
Well, Jared, Simpsons hell and my boy JC up there, they're always keeping me in line.
But he's silent. You're left to your own devices.
Not in here, baby.
Don't stray. You don't know. Maybe he wants you to.
Not in here.
Maybe there's a plan.
Well.
So several hours ago, when we started this podcast,
yes,
just recording this one, I mentioned that there was a film that came to mind watching this, because there's a bit where, like, I think they called this on Wikipedia, the vortex of damned souls, where characters are just running around in a circle over and over and over again. And I was like, you know what this is missing? John Cusack in a cell tower, like in the smash hit Cell. Remember that movie, RJ?
The Stephen King smash hit Cell? Is that what you're talking about?
Yeah.
Yes, I am aware.
Yeah, people running around, going around and around in circles endlessly.
Do you think that's what he was going for?
I think it might have been. They've been like, it's like Jigoku. The director would turn to the rest of the production.
And he goes, huh? Says, you guys got it?
It's on Criterion. You could probably get it from the library or something back in whenever that was, 2012.
He said, you guys know what I'm talking about.
When everyone is connected, no one is safe.
That's right.
Oh.
It's a classic. People really People really dump on that movie, but it's not bad.
On Cell?
Yeah. the top 3 reviews: 1.5 star, 2 stars, and half a star.
Jared is a Cell
apologist.
Yeah, a Cell head.
World War ZZZ, Yawn of the Dead.
Oh, see, people are lazy. They've never done anything in their lives.
Yeah, they haven't. Those guys, they couldn't even make a Thunder Pants if they wanted to. That's the thing, you know.
Yeah.
They couldn't do it.
Well,
And that's
it's got Sam Jackson in it, so it can't be that bad.
Exactly.
Very true. Very true.
It's about cell phone zombies. It's great.
Even Jarrett gave it 2.5 stars.
It's a high praise.
That is from Jarrett. Maybe Jarrett's the real cell phone. You know what I mean?
Mm-hmm. So anyway, there's a baby in this movie, Jigoku, and it's in peril.
Yep.
And
frequently.
It's on a large wheel for a very long period of time, and this guy just can't reach it. It's like he's not even trying.
Mm-hmm.
It's like he's acting like he's trying.
You see, I the biggest problem I had with that is like, don't go like with the wheel, go against the wheel, because you'll get there way faster.
It's the other way. Good point.
Yeah.
I mean,
but,
you didn't think that through.
Yeah, he doesn't try at all though. Like he's just
that would be hell though, like a baby just screaming in your ear endlessly.
I think it would be. I think the biggest thing with that too is like,
and you can't like pick it up and just like rock it.
It's always in a room somewhere else. Like you just keep trying to find it.
Well, that, and also it's a baby that never existed either. It's like, this is the baby we were going to have, and then he goes, oh no. He says, this is my own personal hell. Yeah. It's crazy.
Yeah. So we're kind of left on this like moment of like, Shiro's unable to save his daughter, his daughter's soul, who got brought down into limbo hell because it was like gestating in the womb.
She was unbaptized.
That's
how that works.
Original sin.
Yeah.
So anyways, you find out that everyone at the party's dead, which I mean we kind of figured because they're all in hell. Mm-hmm. You got to be there for some reason. The painter, he's hung himself, set his painting on fire, and then we get a scene of because you find out it's his sister that he was infatuated with. Yeah, a little bit of incest thrown in for good measure.
There's a lot of that in the second one, or in the remake too. Even though the story's completely different, there's a lot of like, oh wait, never mind, this was your brother. But it's like, I don't know. That's a sin.
Just casually
go to hell.
Yeah. So this has like some real Eraserhead vibes in some ways. These like this kind of ambiguous final shot of like the two figures, kind of these gatekeepers to heaven, I guess. And there's like the petals raining down, and they're like with their parasols, and they're like kind of gesturing, "Come on in, the water's warm, in heaven."
So did you guys just accept that ending, or did you find more about it?
I didn't look into it.
I just accepted it.
I did too, and I had like one question. Like when I finished watching it, I was like, did Shiro deserve to go to hell?
Well, so I think
he was always like trying to do the right thing.
I agree.
He never caused anything negative to happen.
Yeah, I agree. He was always the one he was trying to do the right thing every step of the way. Every step of the way he was trying.
And then his fiance died on the way to go confess, and so then he had to deal with that. So then that's why he didn't, and he didn't cause that. He always felt guilty about everything that he did. Yeah. Like, what did he ever do wrong?
RJ, as a theologian, what do you say?
I think if he went up to St. Peter, my boy, St. Peter would have gave him a pass. He'd say, I saw that you were trying to do the right thing.
Okay. So what if St. Peter was Lord Enma, and he had some like Oni demons that just beat you with clubs?
See, Lord Enma has a different approach to this. He says, "You're guilty."
Yeah.
You're guilty, and he goes after them. But even like
it's a made in Alberta solution.
It is. Yeah, because girlfriend dies, and he's just like, shit. And he's like, I'll still turn myself in. And then he gets to know it's like, Mom is dying. Come now. And he goes, okay. He's like, I got to go see my mom now. And then he goes there, and then everyone's dying over there. It's a whole thing. He's always trying to do the right thing. He doesn't try to do anything bad.
Isn't that true of all of us?
Yeah.
So what I found out about that is when he first goes to hell and he sees what's her name, Yukiko. She's there with the baby. The baby's got the original sin, so she lays the baby in the water and it starts going to hell. And she tells him to save the baby. He chooses to go to hell.
Oh, I didn't think of that.
He doesn't actually go to hell. He chooses to go. And so then when he's following the baby at the end on the wheel, and then at the end when they have like that ominous ending or whatever, it implies that he actually got the baby and saved it and was able to go to heaven after.
I didn't
get that at all. Like, why the hell did Shiro go to hell? I didn't think that he deserved to go. I thought that was rough that he was down there.
Yeah.
I guess it's like, I mean, his if you want to take his like doppelganger friend as sort of like he's kind of dragging him down. He's kind of preventing him, and I guess I'm not sure what you're supposed to do in that situation. Be like, step off, bro. Leave me be. I don't know if that would have changed anything fundamentally, but
he tells him every 5 seconds to leave him alone. That's the whole thing.
At one point, he's like, "Where did you come from?" He says that. Where did you come from?
He just
that
shows
guy
up.
was a weird character in that. If that was like an American-made movie, people would question the hell out of that guy because he didn't make any sense.
That would be the Jared Leto character.
Yeah. But then
with his grill,
I was like, is he just like a devil on the shoulder? Or does he exist like the doppelganger thing? I'm like, what is the deal with that guy?
So the screenwriter said that the intention was that it's supposed to be him. Like both characters are supposed to be him, but they didn't want to like make a hard distinction. Like that's why they didn't have the one actor playing both roles. He said he's like yeah, we wanted to make it a little bit like kind of ambiguous. So he's like it's supposed to be him, but it is also kind of a separate entity. So it is him and it isn't.
He's always just kind of like hopping in and being like, you're bad because of this and you're bad because of this, and like doing like weird things here or there. But then when they're in hell, he's still kind of doing that, but then all of a sudden he starts getting tortured in front of the other guy. So I'm like, that's why I mean, like if it was an American movie, it'd be like, if he's gonna be like
sides.
A devil on your shoulder, he can't actually be driving a vehicle and doing and other characters reacting to him, right? Like he shows up at the professor's house at the beginning and makes everyone uncomfortable and everything. So he is actually like a physical character in the movie. He's not just like a metaphorical
guy.
Yeah.
What kind of car would the devil drive, do you think?
Black
Lincoln.
Lincoln.
Does this guy drive a black Lincoln? That's pretty good.
I think that's I believe that's the car in the movie The Fury. Not the Fury. The car.
Yeah, the car.
I was thinking of because I think it's a Plymouth Fury in Christine.
Yes. Yeah, no, I agree with you. I agree with both of you. Black Fury, but also what was I saying? I like the line where he's like I'm an imp from hell or something. Yeah. He says something that he's like I'm a troll from hell, and you're like, okay.
For real?
Yeah, you're like, oh, you?
He was an interesting character. I couldn't figure that one out, but at the same time, you kind of just accept it.
Yeah. A lot of the documentary was that guy being interviewed, like the guy who played like Tamura, yeah. And he seemed like a really sweet guy, and he's like I kind of had a hard time with this role. He's like I don't really like bad stuff. He's like, and all I had to do was bad stuff. And I was like, oh, and he's really old now, so you feel for him. He seemed like a sweet guy.
I looked up his filmography because I wanted to see if there's anything to watch with him in it, and he's not like top billed in any other movies that he's in. He's like lower.
Yeah. Well, I've seen like his top 4 most popular films: Ringu 2, Jigoku, and Female Scorpion, or Female Prisoner Scorpion, which is. Awesome. Actually, it's a really cool movie. But there's the one movie, the poster. I don't know if you noticed this one, Corpse, The Golden Bat.
Ooh, that sounds cool.
Yeah. Golden Bat, yeah, and it's got a couple of the other actors in it too. I couldn't find that one anywhere.
Yeah.
Or maybe it's the director, maybe the same director. No. This one was on my radar. It must be the same. It's the same Toei company. I don't know. This one was on my radar, but I couldn't find it anywhere.
So there was something about those Ringo movies too, Jarrett, where they were talking about the influence of this movie, and the Ring directors wanted everyone involved in Jigoku in the Ring, but a couple of them were dead, and
that presents an issue right there.
Yeah, and then it was one thing where it was like they wanted the set designer or something like that. It was either Ring or some other Japanese horror director who, like, I don't know if they ever actually flashed his name. I think he was just a person talking at some point. But he was like, yeah, I've made Japanese horror movies. And he's like, and we wanted the set director, but it was a conflict or scheduling conflict. So, but the Ring thing was they're like, yeah, we couldn't get like the director because he was dead. So they're like, so we just, went for it. And I was like, oh, okay. Cool.
Yeah. So, I mean, that's kind of the movie in a nutshell. My thoughts on this is, I think I said earlier, I think this film, in its own way, encapsulates the philosophy of this podcast in a lot of ways. That there's like pretty well like everything we like about our movies is here. It's not the best version of that by any means, like at all. But it's like there's so much of it here. We're like, oh, this is what we are all about. What we're looking for in movies. I enjoyed watching this second time quite a bit, just in comparison to like a lot of the stuff we have had to watch recently, where I'm like not involved at all, like on any level. Say like an Adam's Rib, which is a side thing.
You loved Adam's Rib.
You're seduced and abandons, even like kicking and screaming. The works of old Eric Omer. This is definitely more my speed, I guess. Not just because it's like kind of cool, gory, hell stuff or anything like that, but just on this idea of like, life and misery, but in a cool way, not this ennui, bored rich assholes, and like being like, man, these are really good characters. I go, no, they're not. This is like, these characters are garbage, but we're gonna have fun with it, and they're gonna die from like rancid fish. I'm like, give me more of that, please. And like greasy in it. Give me greasy.
Who doesn't like greasy?
I don't know. People who are trying to watch their diet. Like greasy foods. But
greasier the better, I say.
But
people that don't like matzo burgers.
Oh, good point.
So that wonderful like savory, salty flavor that matzo has. Oh, you gotta go get yourself one tomorrow.
Yeah.
But anyways, I'll throw it to you two. What did you think of this film?
I think it's usually customary I let the guest go first. So, Corpse, would you like to take it?
Jigoku. The beginning half of this, I'm still trying to wonder how much I like all that stuff. They really, you feel like they're just trying to like show you why everyone's going to hell. And at the end of the day, if that was like the movie, would it be that great?
No.
It's hard to say because like there's fun stuff that happens.
Yeah.
But you're just waiting for them to go to hell, and then when you go to hell, it's worth the wait. And they spend enough time in hell that it's not just like a quick like ending of it or whatever. You know what I mean? Like you spend some time there, and then it has a style too. I don't know if it was a unique style, if they invented this style, but it's still being used to this day. The like almost like neon greens and reds. Just like lighting, like it's a straight like black backdrop, and they'll just like shine a light on one character, a green light on one character, and a red light on another character, and they're emulating that today. It's almost like a throwback style that people are still using today. It's like almost considered a gimmick in ways, and I like it myself. Like, I mean, you need more than just that to make a good movie, but if you throw that on top of it, it gives it a good, memorable aesthetic that makes it stand out and memorable in a way too. So I don't know if he pioneered that style. I don't know if they're like, this is what, 1960?
Yeah, I would say that this was there's a lot like with a lot of like the 60s Japanese stuff we've watched. This was like an aesthetic that was
they were
around,
using that, like the lights.
Yeah,
with his stuff, Nobuo Nakagawa, he was not using this kind of lighting in his other stuff before. Like this is like visually a lot different than his other stuff that he made. It's not the same. Like this is a step up from everything else that he made.
There's actually when you're talking about the like kind of that lighting and stuff like that, there was one thing that came to mind. So there's this documentary that came out in like 2009. It's called Henry Georges Clouzot's Inferno, and it's kind of like so the guy Henry Clouzot directed movies like Wages of Fear and stuff like that we've talked about on the podcast. He was working on this project, this movie called Inferno. It never got finished, but there's all this footage because he just apparently became obsessed with like test screenings and like it became this like unwieldy thing that just never materialized. But there's all this footage that exists, and there was enough of it that these filmmakers actually made a documentary about this unmade film. And all it is just like crazy lighting and like trying to figure out different lenses to get certain effects to create like characters' state of mind and stuff like that. I have no idea if this is available for streaming anywhere, but I watched this like a decade ago. But it's one of those, like when you were talking about that, that's the first thing that came into mind. And this was being filmed in 1964, so I think that like there was that experimentation. Like I don't know if you watched that Love Witch movie.
I haven't seen it, but
yeah,
it's on
I'm not a big fan of that, but it does kind of have that sort of like kind of artistic experimentation, I guess, with sort of lighting effects and like creating a mood and stuff like that, and creating really crazy images and stuff like that. But yeah, no, I think this is like pretty much like in that, but I think it also is like using those effects to like more wonderful effects. Like it's a lot more fun with it rather than like having anything specifically to say about the story itself. I think it's just kind of there to like make for really nice like film decisions, making it look exciting.
It's just a little something extra. Like when you think back on a movie, you're like, what do you remember from it? Like the lighting will be one thing that I remember from this, the visions of hell, and it's just like black backdrop with colorful lights shining on like the stuff that you're supposed to focus on, basically.
Yeah.
And then all the people that are being tormented are all in gray. Like there's these like gray swirls of people. Like it looks really nice. And when I'm watching movies too, things that stick out to me, like when I hang out with my buddies or I go out to like a get together with my friends, a lot of the time people will be like, "Oh, give Corpse the remote. He'll put something ridiculous on the TV." This is like the last 40 minutes of this movie would be perfect for me to throw on. And it's one of those things where you're all sitting around having a beer, eating some pizza or something at the table, and people just glance over at the TV and go, "What the fuck is that?" kind of thing. This is a perfect "what the fuck is that" type of movie, and that goes a long way for me.
Yeah.
And so yeah, you're watching the first half of this movie. You're invested in it. You're interested in these characters. They got a weird story. They all have like there's things going on to keep you engaged, and then you go to hell, and it's worth the wait. And they spend enough time in there where it's not just like a cap on the movie. It's still it's a good chunk of the movie too. So I think it's effective and memorable and stands out especially for a 1960 movie too.
Yeah. So you're saying it was worth coming onto the pod for like 4 hours to talk about?
Oh, absolutely. And then the deep dive into Nakagawa too, like some good black and white Japanese ghost stories. Like a lot of them, like 4 of them were like the same movie, whereas basically like some rich person fucks someone over and then their ghost comes back and haunts them. It's basically the same thing. It's just like the different rich person fucks someone over in a different way. And then like, but there was, like I said, like under 80 minutes, short and sweet, atmospheric, not like, definitely worth my time. The remake, the 1979 remake, I think I almost would say is almost just as good as this one too. So
see, I find that interesting.
Yeah, I'm watching it like, do I like this more than the other one or not? The hell sequence is a bit better in this one, but it's still good in the other one. And in the 1979 one, it's about this girl who like she's born. So there's this at the beginning. There's this guy and this girl, and this guy runs in and like shoots the guy, and he's like, "You had sex with my brother, and you're pregnant with his baby." And then she steps in a bear trap, and he leaves her to die. And then the townspeople show up, and she's dead, but she gives birth while she's dead. So this baby was like born out of hell, basically. Ooh. And then 20 years later, and then they give it to the guy who cheated. They give it to his wife, and they're like, "You have to raise this baby." And then this other guy from an orphanage shows up, and he's like, "You probably hate this baby because your husband cheated on you with this lady and everyone's forcing you to raise it. Do you want to trade it with this baby? So they like trade babies, and this other baby's born in an orphanage, and she grows up, and it flashes forward to 20 years later, and all of a sudden she's like dying, like getting into all these incidents where she's like on the brink of death. And every time she's on the brink of death, she goes to hell. So you get these little glimpses of hell throughout the movie instead of waiting the whole time until the end. And the glimpses of hell are very similar to, like, visually to this one as well. So they have the colors, they have like the cool practical effects, they have everyone dressed in gray, like a lot of similarities. Yeah. And the one similarity I thought was cool, and I looked it up right away too, is right when they first go to this Buddhist hell, right? There's all these kids sitting around stacking rocks. You remember that part?
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
The kids stacking rocks. So in the remake, all these kids stacking rocks. So I looked that up right away. And I guess if you're a kid, you have that original sin, you go to hell.
Yeah.
You can work your way to heaven, but you have to build your own tower to heaven. So these kids are all stacking rocks to go to heaven, but you can't. It's impossible to do, right? And even if you start to get close, that old lady that meets you there, or whatever, she'll come by and knock your rocks over. Basically, is like what the Buddhists believe, kind of thing. And the
so hopeful.
Buddhists believe in reincarnation too, so that's all part of it. Like I felt like I learned a lot from just like deep diving into the things that I didn't understand in this too. So that's always fun too, is when you learn something from a movie. Don't always, you can have fun other ways too, but learning something's always good.
Yeah, man. Yeah, for sure. There's a lot of cool stuff in here. I'm glad you did the deep dive. In the doc I watched at the time that was made, which I can't remember, it wasn't too long ago. They said that Nakagawa made so many movies, like I can't remember, like a lot, like 60 or 70. And they're like, but he only made 8 or 10 horror movies or something like that. Yeah. But it was like he made them really frequently, so he got a reputation as like a horror director or something like that. And it was a whole thing with like the production company and stuff.
The production company, Jigoku, was the last movie they made before they went bankrupt. They were going bankrupt, and it was the last. It's kind of funny that it sounds like that it made them go bankrupt, but they were going bankrupt, and it was the last movie they made. Yeah. And I kept reading that they said that they were known for making gory horror movies, and I keep like looking through their like catalog. Like there's no like gory horror movies in there, so they're like known for Jigoku, basically, is what it is. And a lot of the movies are like pretty obscure, like hard to find. Like I tried to watch as many as I could, and they're pretty elusive.
Yeah, so like because I was wondering that too, and they in that little doc, they kind of explained it. So it was like, they were going bankrupt, and then when Jigoku came out, people who were critics of it, that were like negative critics, they were basically just like, they're like, oh well, this was rushed out because the company's going bankrupt. They didn't even try. This is like crazy. But then there was like a whole other camp of people that were just like, this is a real strange movie and a real good one that you should watch. So they were using that like company bankruptcy thing in like weird ways to like kind of like to go against the movie for some strange reason. But this was already started before the company was like announced to go bankrupt. Another thing I thought was funny was one of the people in this show was talking about horror movies. So they were talking about how this guy makes horror movies. And then they were talking about horror movies in Japan in general. And the guy said, horror is for summers. He said horror is all about horror in Japan always has summer releases because if it gives you the chills, it'll cool you down. And summer's very hot in Japan. And he said, so in Japan, we have horror movies in the summer to cool you down.
My God.
I mean, and we're pretty hot right now. So when you guys were watching this, did you find that this movie cooled you down a little bit because of the chills you got?
No. It was too hot. All those flames kept me too hot.
Yeah, I was sweating.
I sent Jarrett a screenshot or two where this same guy was also like, he's like, directors don't watch movies. He said they don't care for movies. They just make them. And I was like, what? I was like, who is this guy? He was somehow involved, but his big thing was that horror is for summer because it'll cool you down.
Man, people can say a lot of things, as this podcast is an example of.
Yes.
What floats his boat.
Yeah. All I know about that is when Jared and I watched Green Room together like 8 or 9 years ago, whenever it was, whenever that movie came out in theaters, in the dead of summer, it was the hottest I've been in my entire life because everyone was so stressed out from the movie that everyone was sweating right out of their ass.
You didn't have chills from the neo-Nazis?
That movie's so stressful. I haven't even watched it since.
Carpet knifing people.
Just, but yeah. Anyways, did you have more to say, Corpse? On anything?
Jigoku. No. I think I got everything out that I had on my list there.
All right. I'll round you boys off, okay?
Yeah.
So here's the thing. This movie's super cool. I like this movie a lot.
I knew it.
Because I do like. I take this as Catholic horror, which I realize it's not Catholic. Like it's Buddhism. But I think there's nothing more horrific to like certain religions than ending up in a different religion's hell. So I think that this does classify as a Catholic horror because I think the scariest thing to them would be to like end up in like Buddhist hell. You know, one thing
I think
the sins are similar too.
They are, and the levels of hell and stuff like that. I just think like, imagine you were like, let's say you were Hindu, and you wound up in Catholic hell. You'd be like, this sucks.
Wouldn't all hell suck? Like, I don't think.
Yes, it would.
What's the good kind of hell? The one your own hell, your own
Buddhist
personal hell.
There's like an end to Buddhist hell. You get reincarnated, apparently.
8 levels, and then you're through, baby. Then you're through.
I think Catholic hell is eternal.
Yeah,
Catholic hell is eternal.
Christ.
Lake of Fire.
Yeah, which is real bad.
Yes.
No
yeah.
thanks.
Yeah.
I'll take that Buddhist hell. I'll get chopped up by dudes and like wheels and drink my own pus.
Oh yeah, well Jared's been doing that for years. Yeah. He's been doing that for years. Another reason I like this, I think I've mentioned on the podcast, maybe like just casually, like a year or two, maybe 3 years ago. Andrea is like somewhat Buddhist. Like she actually like subscribes to the Buddhist philosophies more than anything else. And I looked into it once because it's like, I'll check what this is out. Buddhism's main principle: all life is suffering. I saw that and I went, I went, oh yeah. I was like, I like what I'm hearing. And more I looked into it, I was like, all life is suffering. You have to give away everything. Once you have completely like emptied yourself, then you will finally be at peace. And I was like, I like what they're saying here. I was like, this is good stuff. And then watching this movie, I was just like, I get it. They got their 8 levels of hell. It's like their 8 pillars of or 8 noble truths or whatever. Yeah, that's a little Buddhism for you, Jarrett. 8 noble truths, 8 pillars of hell, and it's just like you have multiple levels. And I love, like Corpse, you brought it up earlier. I love the fact that it's like you brought it up for the remake, but where people die and then they get like reincarnated again, and then they have to do the torture again, and then they die and then they get reincarnated. Like it happens a bunch where it's like people getting tortured, like dudes getting cut up, and then they're like and then like it'll be like a hard cut, and then they'll be whole again, and then then they start getting cut up again, and I was like, yeah. I was like, I like that. I like that quite a bit. So I thought that was awesome, and so I watched the doc, and the dude was talking about he wanted it to be like Faust and Mephisto stories about like men getting tempted towards things that they know they shouldn't, but then they do, and then they sin for it. And apparently they sold this movie as heaven and hell, and then the producer, once they made it, he's like this movie's a crock of shit. He's like, heaven's not in this movie at all. And they're like, don't worry. And then they added like the ending, and they're like, heaven's the sequel. And then they gave a big wink, which I think is super, super cool. I really liked how long the hell segment was. Like 40 solid minutes, I think, is just on like disorienting, disjunctive hell, which I thought was super cool. And then some of the hells I liked the most were wandering hell, which I think is the best hell. thirst hell, flailing hell, fire pit hell, being cut in half hell, blood lake hell, flame wheel hell, hands hell, feet hell, heads hell, and then hordes of people yelling and screaming hell. Those are a few of the ones I noted. I liked all those different kinds of hell. But I did really like just the people kind of walking in circles. I don't know what it is. There's something about that. Maybe Stephen King was right, Jared. Yeah. Maybe Sel was right.
Mm-hmm. Yep. One thing I forgot. I'm just going through my notes. I took a few notes here. But when he first goes to hell, he's just standing there with a spear through his neck.
Oh yeah.
Oh yeah. He's like upside down. It's like he's like
it's just there.
That's pretty good too. I like that. So yeah, this is a cool movie. I like this show.
You want to hear from people who don't like this show? Who hate this show?
Potentially.
All right, well, let's run through these real quick. Have a star from the Astral Flight adapter. It's a really bad melodrama. Not worth the wait to the final third either. Just skip everything until you get about a quarter of the way through hell. Fuck me, it's so slow and boring and shambolic. Utter waste of time.
Astral Flight adapter is definitely Catholic. Favorite films include Winter Light, Wild Strawberries, Stalker, and Nostalgia. They also just 3-starred Constantine, and they just watched Spirit of the Beehive, Jared.
Look at that.
Do you want to hear this person's bio?
Sure.
Anyways, let's see what else. It was Coney Island. They called Coney Island the playground of the world. There was no place like it in the whole world, like Coney Island. When I was a youngster, no place in the world like it. It was fabulous. Now it's shrunk down to almost nothing, you see. And I still remember in my mind how things used to be. And I feel very bad. But people from all over the world, it was the playground. They call it playground of the world over here. Anyways, I even got when I was very small, I got lost at Coney Island, but they found me on the beach. We used to sleep on the beach here, sleep overnight. They don't do that anymore. Things change, you see. They don't sleep on the beach anymore. Is that from a movie? What is this?
Sounds like Woody Allen.
All the uhs were in there. I thought this was a person's like actual bio, and then as I was reading it, I was like, is this like from a movie or something? But let's do a quick Google search.
I don't want to like the same movies as that person.
Oh, it's a song.
There you go. Okay, American movies available on CTV.
Weird.
I saw that earlier.
Is it?
No, yeah. So was that other movie that you watched. The was it Vineyards? No, it was
Whatever It Takes.
Yeah, that's on CTV too.
I like that.
Oh, weird. Oh, actually, it's on Tubi.
Oh, Tubi.
The classic.
Jarrett came around on Tubi.
Tubi's better than Plex. I watched Surf Nazis on Plex, and those commercials are infuriating on that one. I don't mind the Tubi ones. They're short and sweet. Plex is like 2.5 minutes of like the same Ritz commercial 4 times in a row.
That's always good.
J.M. Aldman, 1 star. A special kind of bad that requires your undivided attention.
That's a weird way to say that you like a movie. I
think so.
This person likes a lot of French cinema, but a recent review is Scenes with Beans. And it says, this is what the left wants. Communist beans takeover.
Okay.
So take that as you will.
One more. 1 star from Michael May.
Yep.
If I'm being really kind, I'd call this a failed experiment and leave it there. But without getting mean, I guess I'll add that the pre-hell sequences are overlong, full of melodrama and coincidences, and that the final scenes in hell don't pay off as emotionally as the film wants them to.
So favorite films include The Princess from 2022, Murders at Yellowstone City from 2022, Downton Abbey, New Era from 2022, and Star Trek II, Wrath of Khan.
Oh.
Which is a great movie. This person is allegedly the writer and co-creator of the Kill All Monsters comics. I can't remember a time when I wasn't watching movies, podcasting about film on After Lunch, Hellbent for Letterbox, and others. So you can check this guy out on all his things.
Heck yeah.
He's got interesting dynamics. Interesting.
Well,
yeah.
That says it all.
Says it all. Yeah.
Well, any final thoughts on this hell, the sinners of hell?
No, I'm good. This movie's pretty cool. I liked it.
Yeah, me too.
What about you there, Corpse? You think this movie's pretty cool?
Oh, yeah. The 40 minutes of hell is top notch.
Oh, yeah. Very good stuff.
Outstanding. Well, very well. After the break, we're going to be drinking ourselves a nice warm glass of pus and offal.
Ooh.
And, I don't know, like maybe get stabbed in our feet with some spiky things and get sawed in half by some dudes because of our medical mispractice.
Oh, it was the Mountain of Needles.
Oh, so like I think for us, like podcast hell is like having our ears like blown out with like every horrible thing we've ever said, but like at high volumes.
On a loop forever.
On a loop forever.
Ritz commercials, endless Ritz commercials,
and Ritz commercials.
That too.
That's coming next month, folks. These podcasts don't pay for themselves.
Mm-hmm.
Ritz.
No.